So we have a nicely entertaining ridiculousness with Pong. Yeah, we don't have any advice for inappropriate comments, Pong. What we learned about today, we're going to be changing our mindset. We're going to give us a 180-degree shift on how we approach dating, which is going to capitalize off of some of the stuff we were talking about yesterday. Because while we were talking about Portugal yesterday, we were talking about a lot of how you doing, Bruno? What's up, people from Portugal? Special shout out to Portugal, because we were covering Portugal yesterday and talking about the amazing place to go. And I did tell you guys about some common investment opportunities. I gave you guys some information about visas and other such. And then some of the guys that came on to the show was asking a lot of questions about the relationship topics, because we had Sarah come in on a Wednesday when we were usually talking about a different country. So what happened was the conversation steered towards discussing individuals prioritizing what they're looking for instead of prioritizing entertaining the other person. And that's when, around about the time when you started walking out. So I kept getting back to talking about Portugal. Special shout out to North Korea. You make it seem like I'm not going to shout them out. And Korea is Korea, but because there's two factions going on, you have North and South Korea. We can only travel to the south side of Korea from America. But special shout out to Korea. Got the thing going. Yeah, we did talk about those countries: Porto, Braga, Lisbon, Canberra. We talked about the cost of living in all of those countries. And now, special extra shout out to the United States. So we were talking about, I think later on, right after you got off, we went through a little bit more about Portugal, and then we were talking about an individual who asked a question about a relationship, and we were talking about prioritizing the relationship over the family's personal expectations. That's nice. I appreciate that, Bruno. No, actually, I was providing advice. He's asking me if I need advice. That's fantastic. I'm glad to know. So if anybody who has any follow-up questions from yesterday's show, you can ask Bruno, because Bruno can help you guys out with what's going on with Portugal. But no, actually what happened was the guy was asking us questions about relationship advice related to a person that doesn't share the same religious beliefs. So I was telling him to prioritize his expectations in his relationship and not adhere to the expectations of his family members. Because yes, in a more Eastern traditional culture, the family's personal preferences dictates the success of the relationship, because if you don't get approval from your family, the relationship isn't going to be supported. But in the Western culture, if the family doesn't support the relationship, you just take the relationship away from the family and have the relationship. I specified to him to prioritize the relationship in the fact that the person that he's with is meeting his expectations. If this person is meeting his expectations and is showing him the value that he's expecting to get out of a relationship, you don't want something as simplistic, in my perspective, as differences in religious beliefs to compromise your ability to have a successful relationship. Because he was claiming to be Christian, she is supposed to be pagan, but really and truly, most people in America started off with a Christian belief. They just abandoned those beliefs based on experiences. And just because they abandon those beliefs does not mean that they're not a good person. So if you found the person that's right for you and they are just discouraged from negative experiences from going to church and practicing the religion the way you practice the religion, doesn't mean that they can't get back into that. Because one of the stories I was trying to tell yesterday was that in order for you to get somebody closer to God, you got to take them out of the turmoil that they're in first, in order for them to recognize on their faith. Because no individual who is lost in turmoil is focusing on their faith. They typically only beg for salvation in the most traumatic scenarios where everything is about to be lost and catastrophic change is about to occur. But if they're struggling through strife, they're not going to sit there and pray for gratitude or providing gratitude in their prayers. They're going to be basically praying for salvation. They're going to be begging for someone to come and help them. They're not practicing their religion. They're just begging for help. It's their focus is not properly guided. Your selfish intent there. So I told him, I said, well, if you don't pay attention to that and you pay attention to the fact that this person is dedicated to you the way you want them to be, and then, let your family know that they should focus on, supporting your relationship. If they want you and your relationship to go over there, then that'll manifest a cohesive unit between the family and the girlfriend. And I specifically told him, have that conversation with the family without the girl there. That way the family doesn't disrespect the girl in that conversation. He gets an understanding with them without her there that they will respect her in his inside and outside of his presence, or he will not come over with her and he will not come over without her. And by doing that, he can support his relationship and still maintain a positive engagement with his family. Because if you're in a dynamic where your family is forcing you to choose, you will either have to reject your family and go with your girlfriend, or lose out on a possible good thing with the girlfriend in order to stay loyal to the family. And you should not be in a situation where you're being forced to choose. You should be in a situation where your family is going to respect your decision and support your decision, and then warn you if anything's going wrong. Because if you abandon the family in order to explore this opportunity, you can leave yourself more vulnerable to failure. But if your family is not going to be supportive based on biased beliefs, that's not going to help you. So that's one of the reasons why we had that conversation, which led to today's show. So today we're going to be discussing, he said, great advice, because we have to be happy with our choices and ourselves. Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. He said, if believing in God is bullshit, why Hollywood is all the time making Satan propaganda? Deep question here. The thing is, it's important because the core foundation of people's morals, beliefs, and ethics come from religion. So that's one of the reasons why we had that conversation yesterday. And today, I think I started doing a show about changing our mindset and our perspective, specifically because I've mentioned it on the show quite a few times, and I've gave you guys examples about it. And yesterday I was giving you guys examples about it, but somebody told me that I was apparently an incel because we were talking about this particular scenario. And I was like, well, how am I an incel? Because I'm telling this man to prioritize his expectations in a relationship and don't settle for less, and then stand on business when you're talking to your family and your friends to demand respect for the decisions that you're making. What does that make me an incel about? If I was whining and crying about how a female that I wanted didn't want me, then you could call me an incel, because the true definition of an incel is an individual that is wanting somebody that he can't get, or not able to find anybody that will accept them. I'm not on a mission to be accepted by somebody else, and no man should be on a mission to be accepted by somebody else. The females that we choose have to be valuable to us in order for us not to be wasting our resources on entertainment. Because if she's only there for the good times, flings, physical intimacy and stuff to that effect, and then when those intimate moments aren't happening, you're just paying for her existence for the next time you guys are going to have intimate interactions with one another, which gives you a consistent sex partner that you're renting. You're leasing a consistent sex partner. That's not a solid relationship. That's not strong foundations. So saying that I'm an incel because I specifically said that it's important for us to prioritize what we're looking for from our partner. Make sure that they're capable of handling that before we start trying to decide what our partner wants from us, to see if we want to handle that. Now, that's going to be a both sides of the fence kind of scenario, because females are going to be prioritizing what are they going to get from this relationship. What females forget to do is prioritize, are they willing to do what the man wants them to accomplish in the relationship? But that's not the women's fault per se, because the men are not saying what they want in the relationship. The men spend more time finding out what the woman wants out of the relationship and being a people pleaser, and the women spend more time in the relationship trying to see what all they can get out of the relationship. Because the dynamic is not uniform, if you don't find a woman that prioritizes your interests, if you don't say nothing, she doesn't have anything to do. She's free from responsibility, not because of her decisions, because of your decisions. So when I made that statement and somebody that's like, oh yeah, you're an incel because you're shaming what? And I'm like, no, I'm telling you like it is. If you are an employer and you hire an employee and you don't give them any responsibilities, they're getting paid to show up. If you are a worker and they hire you for a job and you don't discuss the rate of pay that you want to get paid for this job, you're not going to get the quantity of money that you're looking for more often than not. In an interview with an employer, the employer finds out if the employee or the future employee is willing to and capable of performing the job duties, and the employee has the responsibility to confirm what the job duties are to decide if he or she is willing to perform that, and then how much are they going to get paid to perform that. There should be a mutual agreement upon hire that I'm going to do the majority of these things, and you're going to give me a reasonable quantity of compensation for performing those tasks on a regular basis. That's the exact same dynamic that we're going to have with dating. So that's where we are today. We're going to be talking about changing our mindsets. And I'm going to give you a nice rollout as to how. So picture this. If you guys were experiencing another Saturday night, another date that feels more like a job interview for a position you're not even sure that you want. You find yourself smiling, nodding, laughing just a bit too hard at a joke that really wasn't funny. Every word, every gesture feels calculated. You're asking yourself the same silent looping question. Do they like me? Am I saying the right thing? Am I enough? You leave the date feeling hollow, not because it went badly, but because the person you presented wasn't even you. It was a carefully crafted avatar designed for maximum likability, and the exhaustion from that performance is crushing. So in these types of scenarios, you might feel excited about the fact that you have a second go round for this performance or a third go round for this performance. But the fact is that you're still exhausted from this date. You're tired of playing a game you don't remember agreeing to, a game where the prize is an approval that feels fleeting and ultimately empty. What if I told you the entire rule book you've been playing by is wrong? I love this. That feeling of exhaustion, that sense of being on a relentless treadmill of dead-end dates, that's not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that your strategy is broken. We've been sold a pretty flawed idea about what dating is supposed to be, and we've been taught through rom-coms, culture, and maybe even well-meaning advice that the goal of dating is to be chosen, to be selected, to win someone else's affection. So we treat every first date like an audition. We prep our lines, we pick the perfect costume, and then they reply to the performance in our heads, wondering where we went wrong. And after we've replayed this over and over and over again, we forget how we got there in the first place, but this constant need for validation becomes an addiction. We crave the hit of reassurance that we are accepted and liked, but it's a thirst that can never be really quenched. And you guys can understand that this happens a lot on social media, where individuals that are overly complimented and overly fulfilled with positive rapport ends up having a false sense of egotistical behavior, which nullifies them from the regular normal validation. And then it makes it harder for that person to find a realistic individual that will provide them with the same level of validation that they would have received from hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of individuals that comment to them one time per person or 5 times per person out of a massive platform. This approval-seeking mindset is the single greatest saboteur of our love lives. It's a way of thinking that forces us to constantly look outside of ourselves for our sense of worth. So our self-esteem is fundamentally based on external approval, when it should be fundamentally based on our own personal approval of ourselves. It comes from a deep-seated insecurity, maybe from childhood, and a fear of rejection that can feel totally consuming. We become chameleons, changing our opinions to match whoever we're with, all in a desperate hope they'll like us. This creates a toxic cycle. The more you seek approval, the more you hide your real thoughts and feelings. A behavior expert called self-silencing. The more you self-silence, the less authentic you are, which ironically makes a genuine connection impossible. So you end up attracting people who are drawn to the mask, not the real you. And when the relationship feels empty or inevitable, you experience flaws that nobody can do anything about. And it just reinforces that painful false belief that maybe you're just not good enough. The result, dating burnout, which is what we've been seeing a lot of here in 2025. A feeling of hopelessness, a string of relationships that lack any real intimacy because you were never truly there, a string of first dates that never lead to any real relationships, where 1 to 5 dates and then it fizzles out. It doesn't actually extend to 3 to 6 month, 9 month, 12-month commitments. You feel like you're constantly being picked over, or worse, picked for now, only to be tossed aside when someone better comes along. And the mental toll, it's huge. It leads to anxiety, resentment, and a deep sense of loneliness, even when you're with someone. And you'll find it a lot of the times in scenarios where you get that pain in your chest on your way out the door, knowing they're not coming with you. Hello, local artist girl. How are you doing tonight? You'll feel that discomfort when you first start walking up, the nervousness, your heart racing, the butterflies in your stomach. One of the reasons why, as adults, we spend a lot of our time communicating with romantic partners on the first date over a glass of alcohol, because we numb our feelings with alcohol because of the extreme quantities of anxiety that we've developed. This whole approach is just ineffective. It's emotionally damaging. And it's time for a 180-degree shift. So before we can build a new foundation, we have to see the illusion we've been living in. The modern dating world often feels like a battlefield because we've been given the wrong weapon and a flawed map. So we're fighting the wrong war. The problem isn't just that we seek approval, it's that The whole dating ecosystem seems designed to make you do this. The start that we're going to approach right now is with what behavioral scientist Logan Urey calls romanticizer. This is the person with fairy tale expectations, unrealistic expectations, who's waiting for that love at first sight moment, that cinematic spark. This myth of the spark is one of the most damaging ideas in dating. We've been taught that an instant electric connection is the ultimate sign. But what is that spark really? More often than not, it's a mix of intense attraction, novelty, and most importantly, the thrill of getting validation from someone we find super desirable. It's not a measure of compatibility. It's a measure of immediate chemistry, which can be totally misleading. When you're looking for approval, the spark becomes an obsession. You're not actually looking for a partner. You're looking for a dopamine hit, a sign that this attractive person finds you attractive too. The chase for the spark is just a chase for validation. Research shows that for most stable, happy couples, the chemistry builds over time. In fact, one study found only 11% of couples reported love at first sight. By prioritizing the spark, we overlook amazing potential and partners who might be slow burns, not love at first sight, instant chemistry, extreme flames that burn for eternity kind of thing. A slow burn, a progressive increase, where people with whom a deep connection could grow if we just give it a chance. So this leads to another bad approach, the bounty hunter mentality. Dating becomes a mission to find the one. This turns what should be a journey of discovery into a high stakes game of pass or fail, which is what our dating apps have turned into. Pass or fail. Swipe right, you pass. Swipe left, you fail. Which first counter, first confession turns into pass or fail. If you pass, you're in a relationship. If you fail, you're in the friend zone. You then end up asking your question, did I get a second date? If so, success. Did they ghost me? Failure. This mindset creates so much pressure and emotional whiplash. It's exhausting because the goal isn't discover if we're a good fit, it's get the relationship. This is exactly why online dating can feel so draining. We see an endless buffet of our type, which tricks us into chasing the same kind of person who represents the validation we want, instead of exploring who might actually make us happy. And when your main goal is to be liked, you subconsciously lower your standards and ignore red flags. So you're so focused on performing that you forget to actually vet them. And that's one of the things that we discussed yesterday when the person tried to call me, well, after the person tried to call me an incel. And I love being called an incel because that lets me know that it hurt their feelings that I was saying that you're not supposed to be prioritizing the other person on first contact. You're supposed to be prioritizing yourself. You have to vet the other person. You have to find out if there are any red flags there, if there are any pet peeves you're not willing to tolerate, if there's something about the other person that's a no-go for you. Because when it comes down to one-night stands, oh yeah, they could hit most of your red flags. But if they're attractive enough for you to sleep with them, you can still sleep with them. They could be a very, very toxic person to be engaged with for a long period of time. But for the sake of the physical contact, for the one night stand, that toxicity doesn't matter to you. But we take that one night stand and turn it into frequent occasions, and then that turns into a romantic relationship, and now we're dealing with the toxicity. So we keep forgetting that. You got to remember, does this person share your core values? Do they talk to you with respect? How do they handle stress? These are questions that determine if a relationship can last, but they get pushed aside. Instead, we ask, do they think I'm funny? Are they impressed by my job? When you finally win the person, you might realize you've won a prize you don't even want, or worse, someone who's completely wrong for your life. This was a core discussion yesterday, probably 3/4 into the discussion of Portugal. Because if you spend so much time trying to get the person to like you just because they're attractive, and you don't know if you like that person, you end up forcing yourself to accept someone that is not a good fit for your life, that you ultimately did not want, because your goal was to be accepted. Needing approval makes you a magnet for people who aren't ready for commitment, or who might even be manipulative because they can sense your eagerness to please. You teach people how to treat you, and when you're desperate for approval, you teach them that your needs come second. That's the grand illusion. That by making yourself small and agreeable, you'll find a great love. The opposite is true. You'll find a relationship that mirrors back your own lack of self-worth, if that's what you're projecting out. So if the old way is a dead end, what's the alternative? It's a 180-degree turn, a profound yet simple shift in your objectives. So here it is. Your goal in dating is no longer to be liked. Like I told y'all yesterday, I don't give a fuck if she likes me. I'm here talking to her to see if I like her. I'm here talking to her to see if I'm interested in pursuing something with her. I'm seeing if the things that she's expecting to get from her partner is things that I'm willing to provide to her. Because it's not just about her doing what I want. It's about me being willing to do what she wants. I got to figure all that stuff out while I'm vetting her. Now, if I can check all the boxes, or most of them at least, then I can put forth effort to make sure that the person that I want is the person that wants me. But that comes second. So here it is. Your new goal is to figure out if you like them and if they are a compatible, healthy addition to your already valuable life. Let that sink in for just a minute. Okay. Look, I got waters all over the place. And we got to get that extra coffee in there because they gave us 40 coffees from Two Rivers coffee blends. And out of those 40 coffees, there's a mystery coffee in there. So now I got to drink 39 cups of coffee before I drink the mystery blend to determine which one the mystery blend is. Which means I got to put up a lot of videos about coffee. Now that it's sunk in, this isn't about becoming arrogant or cold. It's not about playing games or acting detached. It's about fundamentally changing your role. You are no longer the nervous applicant hoping to get the job. You are the CEO of Your Life Incorporated. That is a good name for a business. Your Life Incorporated. And you're interviewing candidates for the very important role of partner. You're not seeking their approval. You're determining their suitability, which ironically, on a side note, leads to me and a buddy of mine this time last year was talking about the dating application. There's a dating contract and a dating application, but the dating application was a series of yes or no questions and open-ended questions that if she signs off on this, she's a good match. It's almost like the questionnaire that you do on a job for them to vet you to see if you're hireable. You don't know what the right answers are, but you know that you got to answer these in order to get the job. And sometimes if you don't answer them the way they expect you to answer them, you don't know what happened, but you no longer get the job. It's crazy. But this shift is radical because it moves the source of control from out there to in here. So instead of handling your self-worth over a stranger you just met, you anchor it with yourself. So you're not trying to give your value to the other person. You are trying to maintain the value within yourself. And then you're going to vet this other person to find out if this other person is as valuable to you as you are valuable to yourself. Right? Which is still on the same dynamic of what I told you guys before, that when you're already in the relationship, the partner in the relationship is supposed to make sure that they're maintaining their value to their partner. So whatever their partner was looking for when they got with you, that is what you're supposed to be able to continue to provide to the best of your ability, with the exception of exemptions based on life changes. Because if you're poor health or you know, now there's children, or you know, job changes or locational changes, outside of those scenarios that changes the entire dynamic, whatever effort that you were expected to bring into your relationship, now that you're in that relationship, you were supposed to make sure that you're maintaining that. So never have I ever contradicted myself with the direction of focus when it comes down to prioritizing yourself and standing on your non-negotiable expectations for behavior. Now, your value is up. Your value is not up for debate ever. This is a given. The question is no longer, am I good enough for them, but are they good enough for me? Are they aligned with my values, my goals, and the life I'm proudly building? Not just about the life that I already have. It's about the life that I am building, because where I'm trying to end up in my future is where my current partner is supposed to be. Which, one thing I told you guys plenty of times before, that when you're dating somebody and you're chasing the type of individual that is meshing with your right now, and you're not satisfied with your right now, if that person is not the type of person that's willing to grow, you could be potentially grabbing a person that has plateaued in a level that you're not satisfied with, and you're continuing to grow past that person. Eventually, y'all are going to part ways because y'all are going to fight over your desire and demand to grow and their desire and demand to stay still. So you have to put forth the effort to make sure that the person that you're looking at is willing to head in the direction that you want to be. Okay. The immediate effect is a huge sense of empowerment. So the anxiety drops because the stakes change. A date is no longer a performance to be judged. It's an information gathering session. Rejection, the monster that used to be held with so much power, loses its sting. if someone doesn't want a second date, it's not a verdict on your worth. It's just a data point showing a lack of compatibility, which saves you time and energy. And fellas, it saves y'all money. It's the ultimate example of rejection being redirection. And ladies, y'all are going to experience, because this advice goes both ways, but ladies, y'all are going to experience more and more fellas that will make an initial attempt. And y'all are thinking that men are going to continue to play the cat and mouse push and pull scenario. And after that initial attempt, if they're not seeing what they're looking for out of your response, they don't put up a second attempt. You're wondering, oh, well, he made a pass at me once and then walked away. Yeah. Because if I've got to convince you to let me determine if I like you, then you're not worth my time. Truth, even though women approach men less often, and women should approach men more often than men approach women, because women are the ones that are benefiting from this opportunity. So they should be interviewing the men more often than allowing the men to present all of this royalties to bribe her into interaction. But since women are approached by men more often than men are approached by women, if the men stop going after soul desire and focus on their priorities upon first contact, where they're not misguided about their expectations. Because if you're going in there sex driven, like, I'm gonna get laid, I could sleep with this girl, and now you're begging for her attention so that you can entertain her enough to get her to sleep with you, you're not accomplishing any goals here. And you could be setting yourself up for catastrophic failure, because these days consent can get completely shifted into something else after the fact. And the laws ain't getting friendly, because if y'all didn't hear, for those of you that are new to the channel, make sure y'all like and subscribe. But if y'all didn't hear, Louisiana had passed a law late last year that should be into effect early this year, that those folks that catch that charge where her yes turned into a no, or she originally said no and you wasn't listening, they cutting your nuts off. So guys, y'all got to be careful. Y'all got to be careful. Y'all got to get consent in writing now. Y'all got to record the consent being signed in a contract, and then put the contract and the video in a vault and lock that bad boy, so that if somebody's got questions about such and such interaction, you can show them the videotape and the contract where they gave complete and explicit documented, because otherwise you can see yourself in handcuffs next to Puff Daddy and R. Kelly. All I'm trying to say. But the mindset shifting 180 degrees isn't about changing who you are. It's about finally letting your true self show up. So when you stop trying to be what you think someone else wants, you can finally be who you actually are. You start speaking your mind respectfully, of course, sharing your real passions, and holding your non-negotiable expectations for behavior at the forefront. This authenticity is the only foundation for a real connection. You stop being a chameleon and start being a lighthouse, a steady, consistent beacon. Not every ship is meant for your shore, and that's okay. The right one will see your light and be drawn into it. The wrong ones will sail on by, and you'll wish them well, knowing they were never meant for you or your harbor anyway. And this actually reminds me, it is really entertaining why they say no YouTube, I'm not interested. Well, nobody asked you if you were interested, my guy. Uh, it's not a plus or minus. Okay, so this actually, I love that. That's entertaining, but it reminds me of earlier, right before the show. I came across a video of this chick that was doing the balloon popping thing, and I think the balloon popping thing is a nice social experiment, but I would never want to put myself through that. However, she was standing there, she was talking to the people, and they asked her what was one of her pet peeves, and she said day trader. Nobody popped their balloon on that one. All the guys popped their balloon on the part where she said that she wasn't a God-fearing woman. And I'm sitting over here looking at the fact that like that was your deal breaker. Shoot, I would have popped the balloon at the day trader. She says she don't want a day trader. How are you? The dividend rotation strategy, we're day trading. We're investing capital and raising profits and building wealth. And she's saying that she doesn't want to date a person who's making money, make money for them. I don't want to date a woman that's going to have me out there breaking bricks in the sun for the rest of my life, talking about something, making a living. I want to make a living off of my money, making money, not me having to be physically out there making money. And nobody can identify a scenario where you can legally make money without investing money into something or putting in physical labor. You got to put up some cash and risk it being lost to get back profits, or you've got to show up and have your presence provide you with capital. That's the only two ways that I know about getting things done. Now, yeah, you could put your money somewhere and leave it there and let it generate money for you. But that doesn't mean that the money can't disappear. Even the low risk stocks has the potential to go belly up. It's just less likely in comparison to the rest of the investment opportunities that are out there. Okay, so adopting this mindset of prioritizing your expectations isn't like flipping a switch. It takes practice. Think of this as your new playbook. Build on 4 pillars that will guide you from seeking approval to making a sovereign choice. The first pillar is about completely reframing the dynamic of a date. The old mindset puts you in the hot seat, feeling like a job applicant, palms sweaty, rehearsing your answers. Your internal monologue is a frantic loop of, I hope they like me. The interviewer frame flips this on its head. You're the hiring manager now. You have a prestigious long-term position open at the successful company of your life. Your role has amazing benefits, your companionship, your humor, your support, any resources that you're tied into, capital gains. If you're dating her and she's going to be receiving what you're doing as a head of household, you have capital gains. Ladies, for y'all that are alpha boss ladies that are out there making it on your own and you're trying to get into a relationship, y'all have the same opportunity to offer capital gains. And you won't fill this role with just anybody. You are calm, curious, and selective. Your goal isn't to impress them, it's to assess them. Big difference. Before a date, instead of practicing your charming stories, you get clear on your own needs, what your non-negotiables are. What are the core values a partner absolutely has to share? Honesty, ambition, kindness. What are your hard boundaries? Think about that. How do you need to feel in a relationship to be happy? Secure, respected. This is your hiring criteria. During the date, you're not just waiting for your turn to talk. You are actively listening and observing. You ask open-ended questions that go beyond small talk. What's something you're really passionate about? What's a value your family taught you that you still carry with you? How do you like to recharge on the weekends? Their answers to these questions are data. And I actually told you guys yesterday about this deck of cards that I've had for a long period of time called Dating Assassin, and you can find the information on it on our channel. All you got to do is just type in assassin into the search bar and the video will pop up. You click the link. That deck of cards was made by a woman who was determined to break the ice on dating. But out of 150 cards, you can find every in-depth question that would give you the deepest insight of the other person. You can scroll through the 150 cards and pick out some of the most hard-hitting questions out of the deck and bring those with you. Or you could bring the whole deck and y'all can turn that into a game where y'all are sitting there having a couple drinks and asking each other random questions out of the deck. But you're also watching their behavior. How do they treat the waiter? Are they actually present with you? Or are they checking their phones? Do they listen as much as they talk? Or do they talk more than they listen? This stuff tells you way more about their character than any published or polished answer. After the date, the old you would obsess. Will they text? Did they have a good time? The new you asks different questions. How did I feel when I was with them? Did I feel relaxed and like myself? Or was I on edge? Did their energy lift me up or drain me? Do their values seem to align with mine? Am I genuinely curious to know more about them? This shift from seeking their validation to trusting your own evaluation is the first and most critical step. Now, the second pillar tackles the toxic myth that a partner will complete you. That whole idea implies you're currently a half a person looking for the other half. It creates neediness and puts impossible pressure on a new person to be your everything. The full life principle is the antidote. It says a healthy relationship isn't two halves making a whole. It's two whole people coming together to build something even cooler. Your life isn't an empty house waiting for someone to move in and decorate. It's a vibrant home you're already living in and loving it. A partner isn't there to fix the leaky roof. They're there to add a beautiful new wing to the mansion you've already built. Or in some situations, you're building. This means you have to stop making finding a partner your main project in life. Your main project is you. It's about nurturing your friendships, pursuing your hobbies, and kicking ass at your goals. When your life is already rich and full, metaphorically, a few magical things happen. First, you become way more attractive. Confidence that comes from a life filled with passion and purpose is magnetic. People with full lives are interesting because they do interesting things. Second, it takes so much pressure off dating. When a date doesn't work out, it's a minor bummer, not a catastrophe, because your happiness isn't riding on it. Your life is still awesome. You still have your friends, your job, that hiking trip you plan. A partner becomes a want, not a need. And that distinction is everything. When you date from a place of what, you're relaxed and selective. What you want gives you the ability to be relaxed and selective. So when you date from a place of need, you're anxious and willing to settle. So how do you do this? Schedule your own life first. Don't keep your weekends wide open just in case a date pops up. Fill your calendar with things that light you up. Join a book club, sign up for the 10K, plan a trip. The more you invest in your own happiness, the less you'll depend on someone else for it. The third pillar is about switching from anxious hope to cool-headed curiosity. The old mindset is an emotional roller coaster. You're over analyzing every text, every emoji, every pause. It's draining and it clouds your judgment. The data scientist approach reframes dating as a research project. You're not looking for a magical conclusion after one date. You're patiently gathering data points over time to see if there's a positive trend. Every interaction, a text message, a call, a date is just a new piece of data. One great date doesn't mean they're the one. One awkward date doesn't mean it's doomed. You're looking for partners constantly and consistently, where this consistency is the key. And what data are you collecting? Not just tall, funny, good job. You're looking for the stuff that actually makes a relationship last. Values, such as, do their actions and stories line up with what you care about? If you value honesty, but they brag about lying, that's a huge data point. Communication, such as, how do they talk? Are they open and direct or passive aggressive? How do they react when you state a boundary? This makes a huge difference. Emotional maturity is another one. Things like, can they talk about their feelings or do they show empathy for yours? How do they act when they're stressed? Another point could be effort. Do their words match their actions? Do they follow through on plans? Are they putting in consistent effort or only when it's convenient for them? This approach encourages you to slow down. The tendency today is to rush to a conclusion, either putting someone on the pedestal after one good date or writing them off for one tiny mistake. A good scientist knows you need a decent sample size. This might mean going on a second, third, or even, if the spark wasn't explosive, fourth or fifth date, just to gather more information. It also means you stop building a fantasy in your head about someone you've only texted. You see people for who they are, showing you what they are about, not who you hope they will become, which eliminates this fictitious fantasy that others have to fulfill. The final pillar tackles the biggest fear in dating: rejection. For someone seeking approval, rejection is devastating. It feels like a personal failure. That voice in your head says, I knew it. I'm not good enough. I'm unlovable. This fear is so powerful, it can stop you from even trying. The redirection framework completely transforms what rejection means. The framework is simple but life-changing, where rejection is not a reflection of value, it's a gift of redirection. So when someone rejects you, they are not stamping fail on your forehead. Instead, they're simply revealing an incompatibility, where they've done you a huge favor by giving you this information early, saving you weeks, if not months or even years, with someone who wasn't right for you. Think of it this way. If you have a serious nut allergy and someone offers you a peanut butter sandwich, their offer isn't wrong, and your no thanks isn't a personal rejection of them. It's just a fundamental incompatibility. That sandwich, which literally harm you, is not something that you wanted, and it's not something that you needed. So in dating, if someone wants a nomadic life and you crave stability, them moving on isn't a judgment of you. It's just acknowledging you want different things. So you should be grateful for that clarity. Every no from the wrong person clears the path for the right one. It's not a closed door. It's a sign pointing you in a better direction. So to practice this, you need a new script for when you face rejection. Instead of spiraling, your new thought is, okay, thank you for the information. This shows we weren't a match. I'm glad I found out now instead of later. This frees up my time and energy for a connection that is right for me. When you stop fearing rejection, you become bolder. You take more healthier risks. You communicate your needs clearly because you're not afraid that setting a non-negotiable expectation for behavior will make someone leave. And if they do, what if they do? They just gave you a gift of redirection. Knowing all this, one thing is sure. Living in this particular path is a whole new direction in comparison to the way we've done before. Real change comes from action. So here's a 30-day challenge, a practical boot camp to rewire your dating mindset. And this isn't about finding a partner in 30 days. It's about building the self-worth that will change your love life forever. In week 1, this is going to be the week that is all about laying the groundwork. First, get clear on your goals. So take some time, journal about what you're really looking for. How do you want to feel in a relationship? What are your top 5 values? What are your 3 non-negotiable expectations for behavior? This is your new higher criteria. Second, practice daily micro interactions. Your mission: start a small, low stakes chat with 3 new people each day. Compliment the barista's earrings. Ask the person in line what book they're reading. You don't want to just run up and just tell a girl that she looks attractive, because that's sexual desire. Of course, a compliment is a compliment, but being able to find interest in the person that is not a sexualized interest, that actually goes a whole lot further for yourself. I don't really care what they think about it. The fact is that if I like the way the curl occurs in your hair, I like the way the highlights blend. There are things about you that I find appealing that doesn't require me to drag you into the sheets. These things are going to be the things that will continue to spark your interest throughout the relationship. If they're interested in books, if you're interested in books, you guys can discuss that. If they're interested in music and you're interested in music, you guys can talk about that. If they're eating food in public, in the courtyard at the mall or something to that effect, and you compliment their food choice. The goal isn't to get a date. It's to get comfortable initiating contact in a no pressure way. Just talk to them in passing for the sake of talking to them in passing. In week 2, this week, you'll build on the foundation. First, extend conversations at least once a day. Try to keep one of your micro interactions going for just 30 seconds. Longer than the longer that you can extend this, the longer you can extend your feelings of comfortability in these interactions. Ask a follow-up question. The point is to stretch your comfort zone in small ways. The second thing you're going to be doing is actively practicing the full life principle, where you schedule at least 3 things this week that are purely for you: a workout, a solo trip to a museum, dinner with a friend. At the end of each day, journal your wins, no matter how small. Talk to someone new today. Went to the yoga class and loved it. Celebrating these small victories builds momentum. When you get to week 3, time to actively fight the old mindset. First, challenge the negative self-talk. When you catch yourself thinking, I'm so awkward, stop and ask an empowering question instead, like, what's something kind I have to offer? Or, why would someone be lucky to get to know me? Second, implement the data scientist approach. If you go on a date, your only mission is to be curious and collect data. Think of 3 good questions before you start this date to learn about their values, or take a handful of questions from the dating assassin deck and put them in your pocket and take them out there to go and find out what these people's values are. Afterwards, journal your findings based on the data, not on your feelings of anxiety. In that final week, you want to bring it all together. Your main task is to practice setting one small, non-negotiable expectation for behavior. This can be anywhere in your life. Telling a friend you can't make it to an event. Telling a colleague you don't have the bandwidth. The act of setting any kind of boundary and seeing that you survive it incredibly empowers you. Finally, and this is crucial, reward yourself. Look back at the last 30 days and acknowledge your courage. Plan a reward, a massage without a happy ending, a weekend trip, something you've been wanting to do. You go and accomplish that. This reinforces that your growth is something to be celebrated. Now, one more thing I'm going to throw into this is that in that 30-day process, if you start acknowledging dates, you start planning things, you've already got stuff set up. Instead of you having that confusion of asking a female, when would you like to go on a date, or can I take you on a date, not having an objective plan. You could plan something that does not require reservations, that does not require down payments, that you would have done for yourself anyway, and say, hey, I was gonna go to such and such location and do such and such activity. Would you like to join me? It's a lot easier. Instead of saying, I want to take you on a date, or can I take you on a date, being able to tell that person, you seem very interesting. I'd like to get to know you better. I was going to be going to the Dali Museum later this week. Would you like to accompany me? You're already going. Now, what say you? She say no, and then you go, and then something happens and she calls you, and what are you doing today? Well, I'm at the Dali Museum. I'm looking at such and such painting, or looking at such and such art sculpture. Not necessarily saying that you have to go to the Dolly Museum. You could do anything. You could go bowling, roller skating, whatever your hobbies are. If you are on your way over there, if you were planning on going there anyway, and you asked her if she wanted to go, she'll go. Now, for those of you who like to post your social life and somebody that you met on social media, you invite them to an activity that you were planning on going to for first contact, first date kind of thing. They don't have time for it, or they don't want to go. You go on the activity, you post up the all the fun that you had at the activity without them. Odds are likely they're going to reach out to you because you were going without them. The level of confidence is that, like, bro, I'm going. Are you coming with me or not? I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to press you. I'm not going to remind you. If you don't show up, you don't show up. We had an old saying in my family when we were kids that if your ass wasn't in my car when I put it in gear, your ass getting left. Now, that mentality as an adult runs deep, because if this car is going somewhere and you ain't in it, you ain't going. And if you was in it when we got here and you ain't in it when it's on its way back, you ain't coming back with us. Because ain't nobody waiting on you. Ain't nobody begging you. Ain't nobody about to get caught up in some bullshit because you not ready to go, because we are going to leave. That's how this happens. So if you're confident about the fact that this is where you want to go, and you don't mind if this person comes, you can do that. But if you're setting up this activity and this event specifically to impress the other person, that is a waste of time and effort, because all you're doing is impressing somebody who has no interest in you as of yet, because they don't even know who you are. This 30-day challenge is a powerful step to take these ideas off the page and into your real life. This is where the change happens. So I want to know which of the 4 pillars, the interviewer frame, the full life principle, the data scientist approach, or the redirection framework resonated with you the most. Let me know in the comment section below. And if you guys are watching me, because y'all are watching me on your For You page, it might be off to the right. And if you're ready to take control and commit to this transformation, take the time to type "I'm in" the comment section. And this is going to be the way that you hold yourself accountable and join a community of people who are also ready to make this 180-degree shift. We have spent way too long navigating the dating world with a broken compass, one that's always pointing towards the magnetic north of other people's approval. We've been taught that our worth is something we have to earn from someone else, and also to very, very few of us recognize that too many of us know that journey only leads to frustration. Simply focusing on other people's wants without focusing on our own leads to frustration and a total disconnect from who we really are. We're not supposed to be putting on a facade. So, ladies, y'all could take off some of that makeup, let your hair down, take the weave out, get them heels off, and put on some flat sneakers and just be your tiny, cute self, if that's what you are. The power to change this whole dynamic doesn't lie in becoming someone else or learning clever tricks. The power lies in a fundamental 180-degree shift in your intentional compass. It's the shift from seeking to be chosen to becoming the chooser. It's realizing you're not the applicant, you're the CEO. Your life is not an empty house waiting to be filled. It's a masterpiece in progress. A date is not a test of your worthiness, it's a research mission. And rejection is not a verdict, it's a welcome gift of redirection. Embracing this new playbook is about more than just getting better dates. It's about building a deep and unshakable sense of self-worth that will flow into every part of your life. It's about building a life so full and happy on its own that a partner becomes the addition, not a desperate requirement. It's about moving through the world with a quiet confidence that comes from knowing deep inside yourself, deep within your bones, that you are already whole, you are already worthy, and you are in control. Stop auditioning for a role in someone else's story. Pick up the pen and start writing your own. Now, for those of you that took that to heart, we've got some more empowering messages that we're going to be giving you guys, some motivational discussions that we're going to be having Friday and Saturday. And we're going to be trying to improve other areas of your life. I'm trying to figure out which day out of the week we're going to be discussing the ways to improve your credit score and how to communicate to the three major credit agencies. I'm going to be trying to see where I talk about that, because that's going to be in a discussion about removing debt to build credit so that you can use credit to build wealth. So that's going to be a 2-part series. Notate any catastrophic sudden changes that are breaking news for everybody else. We're going to gather the details and try to present that in the upcoming week. And also remember, on my way out the door, y'all, that we do not let the sun rise without going live. So you know that we're going to be live every night of the week at about the same time. We typically start at around about 10:30, 10:35. We're supposed to start at the top of the hour, but we typically start around 10:30 to 10:35 Central Standard Time, which is about 11:30, 11:35 Eastern Standard Time. Remember, on our way out the door, that your dividend rotation strategy requires you guys to buy into the stocks. We were doing AG Mortgage, whichever stock that you're going to be doing, because Orchid Island and AGNC are also due over this weekend. So you got to buy in before 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, which is in California time, like 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're not on the books by that time, any purchase that you make after 4 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 1 p.m. California time, will be postponed till Monday. And all the stocks that have ex-dividend dates to roll over the weekend are not going to be accessible for dividend payouts for the upcoming month. International Seaway is supposed to be paying out today or sometime over the next couple of days. The release has yet to occur, but approval should have occurred, because I think I sold 2 days after the buy-in date. So we're just waiting on that release to happen. And then we're going to be giving you guys information upon all of the shares that have paid out from the dividend rotation strategy for the last 30 days. So we have kind of an idea as to how much was collected. But anybody who has capital left over and is able to get their money on the books by Monday, they're able to utilize that capital to buy 2 harbors by Wednesday. I do believe it's either Wednesday or Thursday. It's the 3rd. Well, you got to be on the books on the 2nd, because the ex-dividend date is the 3rd. So you have to buy that stock before 4 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 1 p.m. California time. And if you do that on Wednesday, you'll get the, I do believe it's between 24 and 50 cents a share for that particular stock for the upcoming payout date. So understanding that, you know that you got to put your money in the right place, and you're going to need 2 stacks of cash or 3 stacks of cash, because a lot of these dividend rotations are hinging on close together stock options. So you just got to pick and choose which ones you're going to grab. the weekend threw everything into a loop for us, because had the 30th been on a Monday, we could have sold on Monday and took the same cash from AG Mortgage and put it straight on Two Harbors. But unfortunately, that's not the way things are working. So we're going to put what we can put on each one of them, and then we're going to see what we're going to be doing after that. So I want you guys to follow us, because we're going to give you guys general updates. And then when I finish going through some more of these coffees, I'll be able to tell you which one the mystery one is. But I'm not drinking a bunch of coffee in one day, so this is going to take us some time. With that being said, I'm going to say, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking y'all to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. And fellas, with more than 75% of y'all on the channel, this is male-driven podcast from the male's perspective. I'm providing you guys with ways to make yourselves better, but the ladies can take this knowledge and information and implement it themselves. So put forth more effort into trying to make sure that you can make better changes for your own personal success, because that's how you become a higher valued individual. That's all I have for you guys for today. I want to say thank you for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.
Chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command.